The Irish Examiner is where I'm going to start this morning. Frustration at the Cross is their lead. Progress leaves City on brink of European exit. Derek McGrath writing this morning that must Cody change his ways to get the most out of his current crop. It's an interesting column from him this morning. Enda McAvoy then is asking about the what-ifs of classic Cork versus Kilkenny meetings. No fear factor, meanwhile, when it comes to Kerry, Mayo scars have healed. Aoife Lane is writing about kids and don't worship their heroes based on gender. And the Supreme Court is the headline on the bottom right there. Wimbledon primed for another classic Nadal-Federer battle.
Yeah, just looking at the Irish Independent, back of that Irish Independent, taking prominence is that Stephen Kenny story you mentioned, Owen. Stephen Kenny. Ireland shouldn't have lost out on Rice and Grealish. The Irish under-21 boss, he basically making comments on the Stand podcast presented by Eamon Dunphy, and he was just making the point that he feels that a lack of relationship between Martin O'Neill and some of these players coming through at underage was the issue and is why they didn't declare for Ireland in the end. He said if there was a better relationship at the time between under 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and senior managers, you would feel that both Jack Grealish and Declan Rice would definitely be playing for Ireland now. He said, he goes on to say, Jack Grealish played Gaelic for Warwickshire all the way up in England. He did feel a sense of Irishness, stating that the duo should have been integrated into the senior setup much earlier. He goes on then, we don't need to try and convince people they're Irish. We're not interested in that. We need people that it means everything to them. Kenny added, I understand that there is the concept of dual nationality and that can be quite complex. So that's an interesting one, and I'm sure if Martin O'Neill gets a platform, he will have something to say about it if he does hear back, because I know he does keep note of what's going on in the papers, especially in relation to Ireland. Also in the back of the Indo, Robinson set to join Sheffield United's Irish contingent in £6 million switch. Preston North End can confirm they've accepted a bid from a Premier League club for forward Callum Robinson. Their statement said last night. It's since emerged it seemed to be Sheffield United, although he was linked with Norwich City last week. And then Serena edges closer to matching Court's record. Of course, Serena Williams winning her semi-final yesterday against Barbara Strycova of the Czech Republic, and now in pursuit of Margaret Court's all-time record of 24 major titles.
I don't think anybody will be too disappointed to see Margaret Court's record go, to be quite honest with you. Back page of the Times is one match from glory. England dominate Australia for shot at making history. It's been an incredible couple of days at Cricket World Cup.
Brilliant. Yeah, we've had it on in the office there. New Zealand beating India was a big shock, I think.
And the way they did it as well, how it all fell so early.
Yeah, I spoke to a taxi driver on the way in this morning, and he was saying that he spoke to some Indian chap who was saying, like, we're the Manchester United of cricket. We shouldn't be getting beaten here. And I think no sooner than they had gone out, the Indian Cricket Board were looking to get some changes on the rules with regards to how the competition works out.
They've already changed it enough to favour the Indians.
Well, this is it. England as well are going to be heavy favourites. Look, they're the home team. Our own Morgan, Dublin man, of course, captain of that side. And you feel that it's been building for him as well over the last 7 or 8 years.
I see Miguel Delaney was asking on Twitter yesterday, is Owen Morgan's achievement, if he wins the World Cup, the greatest achievement by an Irish sports person this year? Katie Taylor was thrown out there.
Yeah.
It has to be up there.
Yeah. It's up there, but, you know, and I know people will talk about questioning the standard of boxer in the women's, in women's boxing now, but look, the amount of hard work that Kate, like, it wasn't a case of she just beat this fighter, in a one-off match. She's been building towards this, and she's had some really hard fights along the way. It's been no gimme for her, and also it was a big change for her going from the amateur ranks to the professional ranks, totally different sports, and I think, to unify the belts, the only Irish fighter ever to do it, you can't take that from her.
No, you absolutely can't, and the attitude is still being maintained there when it comes to the stuff that we've seen this week, the idea of actually going up a weight class, trying to get these big fights done. I mean, you talk about some boxers trying to shy away from the big fights. That certainly has not been the case for Taylor so far.
Yeah, and look, Dublin still have to finish off their All-Ireland campaign. If they win 5 in a row, there's a few men in that team I'm sure will be vying for the title of best Irish sports person.
Okay, let's do it. So top three, give me the order. If England win the World Cup, Owen Morgan, Katie Taylor's already done the business, or whichever, Jim Gavin, if Dublin do 5 in a row, which is the biggest sporting achievement of 2019? I think you'd have to go for the Dubs, for their
to maintain the level they have at the top, it's incredible. And we've seen, look, elsewhere in the Dublin GAA world, it's been a poor year. The minor footballers have been beaten. We've, the Camogie team are in a bit of trouble. They have to beat Tip this weekend to stay in the reckoning in the championship. Senior hurlers went out to Laois. The under-20 hurlers went out to Offaly. Minor hurlers went out to Wexford. It's been a bad year for Dublin GAA, we're all the eggs are in one basket now. Well, I should say we've got the under-20 footballers as well. So it's been tough being a Dublin fan this year, I have to say.
How do you do it? How do you manage to keep persevering? Is there ever a time when you look at that blue shirt and think to yourself, I just wish I wasn't from Dublin?
Well, look, I'm there. Hard times, I'm there through the bad times, and I'm there for the good times as well.
All I'll say is just a public service announcement this morning. Stick with it, Dublin fans. It will get good eventually.
I'll move on to the Star, who come up with a brilliant title there, or headline I should say, Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
Callum Robinson on his way to Sheffield United after Preston accept a £6.75 million bid for his services. Blade's boss Chris Wyler's trailed the Irish attacker for months and was last night involved in talks with Robinson over personal terms. So it does seem to be that's the only thing that he has to get over, as well as the medical as well. Preston, of course, he's down there in Cork with them at the moment at Photo Island in their training camp. They gave him permission to leave. Also, on the back of the Star, I would have kept Rice in. Stephen Kenny reckons Declan Rice, Jack Grealish will be senior internationals now if relations between senior management and their underage counterparts have been stronger. Lopez saves the hoops. Brilliant result, has to be said, for Shamrock Rovers last night. I didn't give them a chance, I have to say, going over to Bran. That was a brilliant result. They went down twice, 1-0 and 2-1, and Roberto Lopez, right in the dying seconds of that game, 94th minute, with a brilliant header, has to be said as well. He's about 10 yards out, right into the bottom corner. So that tie is still alive, and they come back to Dublin here, Bran. And speaking of Norway, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it cannot be the same old story. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has told his players he will not accept a repeat of last season's shambles. Well, good luck with that.
The lead on the Irish Daily Mail is our own fault. Kenny hits out at loss of Rice and Grealish. Meanwhile, major shock on Lee's side as Cork go down to side from Luxembourg. And Rowland urges Laois to seize the day against Tip. This is the Laois goalkeeper, Enda Rowland. Pretty confident about Laois and how they should approach this weekend, and why not?
Definitely, and speaking of Laois, Sports Friday, the Irish Times, Jackie Tyrrell's writing, Eddie's success is in the Bannister's bib is no surprise. So just obviously sharing praise there on the man at the moment, Eddie Brennan, who was out swinging golf clubs with the lads not long after that victory. Fair play to them. And Byrne's patience begins to pay off. Ian O'Riordan writing about Dublin defender David Byrne. Dublin defender had bittersweet time last year as he watched the All-Ireland win from the sidelines. And also Ian O'Riordan writing about the reduced ticket availability for Roscommon versus Tyrone. Roscommon County Board will be operating off reduced ticket availability at Dr. Hyde Park for tomorrow evening's opening game of the All-Ireland Football quarter-final Super 8s against Tyrone, with the 16,980 capacity still expected to meet demand.
Right. That's a couple of reduced capacity stories this week in the GAA. The front page of the Racing Post doesn't go with Ozzie Valentine and his disappointment last night, or John Duggan's winning tip. Eyes on the prize is their headline. Johnson out to follow up yesterday's big race success with Communic as Star Filly raffle prize takes on fellow Royal Ascot heroine Daae. So that's an interesting one on the front page. Inside then, and on the back, really, it's a lot of tennis. Roger that is the back page. Best bets for the Wimbledon men's semi-finals inside, and England 1-3 to seal World Cup. England are now 3-1 on to beat New Zealand in Sunday's World Cup final at Lords. What could possibly go wrong?
No mention of Leopardstown in there, no?
No, as I say, yeah, it didn't make the front page.
Pretty disgraceful.
I'm going to have to write a strongly worded email to the Racing
Johnny
Post.
Ward. Johnny Ward will sort that out. Moving on to the Herald's Sports 72 section on Friday, and Dublin never take eye off ball. Kieran Whelan writing about why Jim Gavin won't make the same mistake the hurlers did. Leash, come on, Kieran. There's no need to have a cut off the hurlers now when you're trying to big up the footballers. Conor McKeown then.
Like it's also kind of, it goes without saying. I mean, it's totally. It just seems like totally different spheres when it comes to Jim Gavin and anybody else. When it comes to the process of not getting complacent. And I'm not saying the Dublin hurlers got complacent or anything.
Yeah. Look, I won't. I say that particularly tongue in cheek, but it is. I know Eddie Brennan made a big thing about the 6-day turnaround. Like the Dublin hurlers hadn't played in 3 weeks. Now, if I'm a manager, I would much prefer my team going into that game off the back of a 6-week break rather than a 3-week break. because you're primed, you're ready. I know they had the Joe McDonagh final. I know
6 day break, you mean?
Sorry, 6 day break. I know they had celebrations, all that kind of thing, but they were primed and ready, and I think they were in a better position going into that game against Dublin than Dublin were with a 3-week layoff. And look, I'm sure the footballers, they've had a similar long break as well, but they will be okay. Conor McKeown as well, writing in the Herald. Dubs and Donegal in top groups in Super 8s. And then Aidan Fitzmaurice, green shoots as Irish players make moves. Some really good info there actually on transfers involving Irish players this summer so far by Aidan Fitzmaurice.
The back page of the Mirror this morning goes with Lauren Koscielny. He's gone on strike. Koscielny refuses to go on a US tour with Arsenal as bitter contract row rages. So this is an exclusive by John Cross, saying that he has indeed gone on strike. He faces disciplinary action and faces losing the captaincy at the Emirates Stadium as well. Mirror Sport can reveal the background to the fallout is that he had a 3-year contract offer from Bordeaux. He is also believed to be upset at what he sees as being made to take a substantial pay cut by Arsenal. And a former France defender who has 1 year left on his 120k a week deal wanted an extension and had held discussions about getting an extra 12 months. So Arsenal were willing to give Koscielny a new 2-year deal, but because of his injury record, offered a lower basic salary. The offer included performance-related pay based on appearances and the option for a free transfer next summer. But Koscielny is not happy. He's fuming, according to the Mirror. He believes the club should allow him to leave for free now. And Unai Emery is already short defensively. He does not want to grant him a free transfer, but he seems certain to leave at this point.
Yeah,
not
sorry,
good
how
news.
long is left on his contract again, Tom?
1 year.
1 year, yeah. I don't know. Like, it's a position they really are in trouble in. They need centre backs. They can't afford it, and
they can't afford to lose their best one.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I know he's coming. What's he? 33, 34 now.
33, yeah.
He's like, his experience is absolutely invaluable to a team like Arsenal, and especially because they're going to be signing new centre backs, you would think, and they need the experience of someone like Koscielny there. And Koscielny as well. He knows. I was going to say he knows the Arsenal way. Maybe the Arsenal way of the last 10 years maybe isn't the best thing to be passing on to the younger generation coming through. But look, I do think Arsenal are starting to go down the right path. I know they've moved Freddie Ljungberg into a position with the senior panel of coaches, and his remit now is going to be bringing through the players from the academy and the Premier League 2 side into the senior setup. So they do seem to be, they're getting a bit more clever now, Arsenal, with the way they operate their academy and bringing players through. And I think maybe over the next 5 to 10 years, you're going to see a lot more of those players coming through and being a lot, ready for senior football when they do eventually make the grade. Just moving on to the Daily Telegraph. And it says, blast off. Brilliant England hit new heights as they annihilate Australia to reach the World Cup final for the first time since '92. It's a long time. And on the back page there, final whistle, Marcus Armitage writing about girls cricket on the rise. But he's saying that the fun sport is being squeezed out of schools in the UK.
You got The Guardian as well?
The Guardian as well, yeah. And a big picture of Owen Morgan on the back there. England blast past Australia. Morgan's side set up World Cup final date. Owen Morgan admitted the idea of England reaching the World Cup final would have been laughable 4 years ago, but after his players swatted aside Australia with a ruthless semi-final display, the joke has become reality. A new 50-over men's world champion will be crowned at Lord's on Sunday, with England booking their place alongside New Zealand by rolling Australia for 223 and then knocking off this lowly target with 8 wickets and 107 balls to spare. Like, they really hammered Australia. And I know there's a lot of talk before that game as well about Australia practicing or training on the pitch in their bare feet.
Bare feet.
Might
be at one with the turf.
Might be a good idea to wear their cricket shoes next time.
The back page of the morning doesn't go to an Irish or UK paper, it goes to AS, because you've got this El Partido de Siglo Episodio 40, whatever 40 is in Spanish.
Great stuff there, on.
That is
it's brushing up on the old Espanol there.
You know me, I'm a man of the world. So you've got a picture there, a brilliant illustration of Nadal and Federer before their heavyweight clash this afternoon. It's going to be good. I was kind of only semi-excited for it, and then I looked at that and I was like, it's going to be an epic.
Yeah.
The one last newspaper is The Sun. Grealish and Rice will be playing for us if they had been fast-tracked. To Stephen Kenny's comments. Is he right?
I don't know. Obviously the two players were nobbled on the other side of the water by English coaching staff or scouts, whatever the case may be. And whatever you know, I know Declan Rice spoke about being brought to PowerPoint presentation by Gareth Southgate and all that kind of thing, but look, we all know nowadays it's all about the agents, isn't it? And the agents offer them, you know, all these golden riches. If you come play for England, you're going to get more money, more endorsements, all that kind of thing. I think that's what it all comes down to. I'm really not sure. I wouldn't be blaming Martin O'Neill. I really wouldn't. Like, what could Martin O'Neill have done? I know he can be. I know he had a strange relationship with players and that kind of thing, but what can Martin O'Neill offer these players? Like, what could he offer them?
A fast track into the first team is into the senior team is what he's saying.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I did see Jack Grealish playing at under 21 level for Ireland, and to be fair, he's really only. I think his last year was his real breakthrough year, I think, for Aston Villa. You know, back when he was playing under 21 for Ireland, he was a skinny lad. He wasn't really ready for senior football, I don't think, at that stage. And, you know, who was he up against? He was up against a lot of good players at that time, like Aidan McGeady, James McLean, these kind of fellas. And is a manager going to sacrifice results just to bring one player through? Like, I do think work can be done now at this point in time, where maybe there could be some sort of a liaison officer working for the FAI, working with underage players, bringing them through, and maybe having it. But I suppose beginning those relationships. And Stephen Kenny must be doing it himself now. I'm sure he is. If he's coming out and saying that kind of stuff about Martin O'Neill, I'm sure he is now dealing with, and not just obviously he's coaching the under-21 team, but dealing with younger players. There's a lot of good younger players coming through now. We saw actually with Michael Obafemi, there was a bit of concern over whether he was going to declare for Ireland, Nigeria or England. As it turns out, there was never any doubt that he was going to declare for Ireland. But Luke O'Connell, he's
still in the balance.
Well, look, you know, he said that his granny told him she would never speak to him again if he didn't declare for Ireland. So
that's as good as kissing the badge after celebrating a goal for Ireland, isn't it?
Listen, the grandmothers of Ireland have a big part to play in this as well. I think maybe that's something as well that the FAI need to do, is ring all the grannies and make sure that they warn their grandsons or granddaughters, if they're playing for the Irish women's team, that if they do decide to declare for England, they're going to be absolutely excommunicated from the family.
There'll be no pocket money for you if you play for England next time. Right, it is just gone 8 o'clock on this Friday morning. You're watching OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from Off the Ball. OTB AM is sponsored by Avantcard, powered by MasterCard. We're talking GAA next, the Super 8s. We're going to have Enda McGinley in just a moment. First, here's some of our Super Value Roadshow from Guidor last night.